because as your brand grows and as you're continuing to tell your story, every platform that comes next is going to have a little bit easier time gaining traction.
Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I have a treat for you. We're going to be talking about marketing, but not the marketing that you think of. I'm super excited for the conversation today because so many marketing people come in, they talk about SEO, they talk about paid ads. We're going to be talking about something different. We're going to be talking about video and branding, and I'm really excited about this. Part of why I'm excited about this is I am going in January down to Florida for 2 days and doing a 2-day video shoot where we're just going to be doing a bunch of YouTube content that we're going to be putting out, as well as some website and sales videos, and really excited about doing that and really up-leveling our professional game when it comes to our branding in the marketplace. And I'm excited to hear our guest talk about it and what they do and how they help law firms with their own, video and on-brand presence in the marketplace. So it's going to be a good conversation. Buckle up. Whatever you're doing, don't worry, we're taking notes for you. So if you are out for a run, if you're in the shower, if you're driving your kids to school, have no fear. In the show notes, right in the description of the episode, and if it's not there, at our website, profitwithlaw.com, we've got every link for you that we mention. If we talk about a podcast episode, if we mention a book, anything that we bring up, we will link up in the show notes so you don't have to take notes while you're out there doing your thing. Really excited to just jump right in. Our guest today is Nancy O'Hare-Zika. Nancy is the owner of Gavel Marketing, a marketing agency that works exclusively with legal professionals across North America with years of marketing experience. Nancy is a vital part of the marketing plan for many firms, assisting them with establishing a brand in order to make all marketing efforts stronger. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
And it's our pleasure to have you. You know, we often take for granted, we're giving access to somebody, to our audience. It's like we're giving to you, but no, you're giving to us, you're giving to our audience, and you're taking an hour out of your day. So we appreciate you being here. And we're going to jump right in. First of all, for those of us who haven't heard of you, okay, myself included, by the way, my team found you. They set this all up. We've never met before. For those of us who haven't heard of you, don't know who Nancy is, fill in the blanks. How did you end up in marketing to law firms? Give us the really synopsis version of your biography and how you got here.
Yeah, you know what? It's a really strange, twisted path that got me here. It was never a plan. This was never a planned venture. I was, before branding was even like a term that people threw around, I helped a friend with a quote unquote branding campaign. And the rest is really history. We made this, and again, this was before websites. This was before branding was a term. We made a 60-second video that told a story. And it was really the first of its kind up where we are. I'm located up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So if you pick up on the Canadian accent, that's why. So we made this video, right? And people lost their mind, and we put it on the TV6 News, which is the only news station up here in the UP. And, it just was a game changer. And pretty soon I was helping other companies make this style of branding type commercial, which, later became tagged as a branding spot. And we really just grew. It was very organic, word of mouth. And pretty soon it got to a point, my mom was in the legal field, and it was very obvious if I were to pick a path of individuals within a career type that needed assistance with this form of marketing, it was law. And so Gavel Marketing was born. Really started at my kitchen table with one videographer that helped make that first video. And he's still with me today. And we now have a team of 22. And we're all located up here in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, but we travel across North America creating branding content. We now have about 4,000 videos in our video library, which started with one. We've also expanded, so we now offer social media management, digital marketing, graphic design, media strategy, and media placement, because I figured that I could make the most outstanding, beautiful videos, but at the end of the day, the people that we were making them for still didn't know what the hell to do with that content, you know? So,
Right.
so we've kind of grown around. We are definitely known as a video production house. That's our calling card. But we have now offered or created different divisions over the last 7 years to help support that division, to help the legal professionals do the best and get the most bang for their buck when it comes to their video and their marketing.
Right. Now, we at the beginning, like before we kicked off, and I asked you in the green room, I said, like, what is your area of expertise? Like, what is the thing that you hone in on? You told me video, and I got really excited about it. But one of the things that you already alluded to is it's great if you have a beautiful brand presence. It's great if you have a gorgeous video on your website, all your colors are good, you got a good graphic designer, like all those things are right. But if there's nobody hitting that web page and nobody's watching that video, then you've got nothing. So what is the path for a law firm to go on where what you offer, it is of value to them? In other words, when in their journey should they be thinking about their branding? When in their journey should they be engaging with you? And how does what you do marry with other things like SEO and paid ads? And I mean, you mentioned that you do social in-house. Organic social is a tough game to win at as well, right? So, when do you cross the divide between organic social versus paid social? There's so many different areas. And I think that before you even answer the question, I just want to even frame it further. The biggest challenge for law firm owners isn't, should I spend money on marketing? Should I invest in our brand? Should I do, like, that's not the biggest question. The biggest question is which one should I do? There's so many. And the problem is like, I'm interacting with a company who specializes in this. Right. So who's driving the overall strategy? So I don't know, maybe you're working with firms that have a CMO in place and they're like, okay, this is where we're at. We need to, find ourselves a Nancy and, engage them. Or they're, so lay that out for me. And how should our listeners understand where you fit in the overall cohesive conversation around marketing and client acquisition?
Yeah, so it's really an interesting question because it's so diverse, right? Every area of law is going to have a different strategy of how they quote market. And depending on whether it's a small single solo firm, whether it's a 4-partner firm, whether it's a huge 200-partner firm, is going to determine how you market. The best thing about marketing is that there is a level of marketing for every single budget, but there are some things that a firm has to understand that they need enough money to sit at the table. So unfortunately, if you don't have enough money to sit at the broadcast television table and you're in Atlanta, Georgia, for example, that's okay. There's other tables you can sit at that you can afford to play the game at, right? And so it's our job. And I would say none of the groups we work with have a CMO in place. We kind of are that. That's kind of where we come in. And that's kind of our sweet spot. Whether it's a company that is just getting their website up and running and, maybe working with Above the Bar, right? They make some great legal websites, or whoever it is, we partner and we make website videos. Website videos, well, video in general, but website videos are probably going to be your best way to an organic SEO win. And to expand on that, the reason why that's a win is you want people to go to your website. First of all, you want them to stay on your website. You don't want them to go on and bounce off. Video, we know, and I was just at a Google conference 2 weeks ago out in California, and video placement on your website is going to hold people there. It's called dwell time. It's going to keep them on your website longer. Therefore, Google sees your website as being one of the cool kids, and you're going to get a lot of organic climb from that just by people sticking on your website. Google thinks, well, this person, this firm, they have something to say, and it's vital and it's valuable information. That's why people are hanging out there. So number one, make sure you have video content on your website. Social media is not to be overlooked. And I will tell you the number one thing that I see personally, Nancy O'Hare-Zika, on my own personal Facebook page. I'm part of these like community of women in Marquette, Michigan, and, Marquette, whatever, these random communities in my town. The number one thing I see next to, does anyone have any returnables that I can have? The second thing I see all the time is, what attorney in town does X? Who does family law? Who does personal injury law? Who's a good divorce attorney? Those are the questions you see over and over. And that tells me that the attorneys across the country, and not just in my little neck of the world, but I believe all over, they don't these attorneys are not spending their marketing dollars telling their story. The community doesn't know what they do. And I wrote an article last year about this very thing, and I called it the bullseye. So as a firm, as a solo practitioner, as whoever you are, whatever your firm is, you're the center of the bullseye. Everyone in your world, everyone you work with, your family, they're all in that middle of the bullseye. They know exactly who you are. They know exactly what type of law you practice. They know where your office is located. They know about your wins. They know about your losses. And they're going to use you and come to you no matter what. I mean, you literally could be, a three-headed dragon. If you're their son-in-law, they're going to use you for that area of law. You go out one ring. Okay, the next ring out on the bullseye right now, we're talking about your neighbors, your kids, the parents of your kids' friends. They know what you do, and they have a kind of an idea, and they might call you and ask you for a recommendation, or do you do this? But quite literally, you get one more ring out. People know you're an attorney. That is all they know. They do not know what kind of law you practice. They don't know some people don't even know what sort of legal counsel they need for a situation. People don't understand defendant and plaintiff. I mean, these are words that in the legal world are thrown around, right? But I don't believe that the normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill human knows that, because for the most part, we don't dabble in that world. For the most part, we go there out of probably a situation that oftentimes we don't want to even be in, right? So no one is thinking, next Thursday at 10:35, I'm going to get a drunk driving, so I better be prepared. I mean, this isn't the way people think, right? So attorneys need to spend their marketing dollars telling their story properly and professionally. So when someone does find out that they need professional help, your professional help, they know exactly who to call. And that's my job.
So I think your target bullseye, rings around the bullseye example is really good as a visual to think about our marketing in general, specifically for those attorneys who are geographic specific, right? Like you serve a community, you serve a geographic area, and it makes a lot of sense. When you're nationally based, it becomes harder to create a national brand that that everyone, that becomes a household name. That's a difficult thing to do. But when you're dealing within your community, there's definitely things that you can do. So this really begs the question. I mean, one of the things that I run a coaching program with our elite law firm expansion program. And if you want to know more information about it, you can go to profitwithlaw.com/elite. But I run this program, and in the program, my coaching clients are, I mean, there's the constant trying to understand, what is the right next step in marketing. And one of the things that comes up a lot that we talk about is the things that marketers are not talking about in general. Like, what if you create a scholarship and, have a scholarship that you fund, and then you control the application process for your high school students going into college. And now, it costs you the scholarship, but how many hundreds of families that are in the application process and the selection process are now being exposed to your law firm brand in that process, right? Or you get involved in the local community by sponsoring the games, or by sponsoring local charity events like a 5K, things like that. When you start to be everywhere in all these different places within the community, how much more powerful can that be versus, trying to show up number one on Google, and how many people are jumping to Google first to find that attorney for that problem over asking family and friends, or, calling somebody they heard of or they've known. And I guess that's why TV ads are so popular and work well for attorneys, because it creates that automatic recognition when you have that running on the regular on the local stations, that you will get local people who are, oh, if I have an accident, I'm going to call 1-800 whatever for that, for that attorney.
Right.
So,
and we have, it's interesting you say that about, the community programs. We encourage every single one of our partners to do two things. And it's a great thing to get involved in the community. Of course, it's a great thing to give back, of course, but I will tell you, it is social media gold, right? We have all of our companies, all of our firms purchase $3,000 worth of like throwaway water bottles, have them labeled with your brand, donate them to your local high school, and allow them to sell them at the concession stand, right? Everyone in the stands watching that high school basketball game, high school football game, is holding a water bottle with your name on the label. And so not only is your name getting out there, you're making a donation to that school, because if you donate, say, 4,000 bottles and they sell them for $1 a bottle, they just made $4,000. So it's kind of a win-win. We also have most of our partners, we try to get them paired up with a humane society, because people love the animal connection. So the tagline is representing even the smallest clients, right? So we have one firm that sponsors what we call the Lonely Hearts Club. And it's a pet that's been in the shelter for more than 60 days. So they cover the cost of the adoption fee for that pet. The Humane Society is pushing it out, with your name and brand all over it. You get to push it out with you on your social media platforms, and you kind of become integrated with that community. You're absolutely right. Those sort of programs, like you said, a 5K. We actually have a local marathon here that was created as a marketing campaign. Tie your name to an event, talk to the people in your area, find out what your area is lacking. If it's a triathlon, if it's a swim event, if it's a 5K, if it's a downhill ski event, find something that's not being done in your community and stick your name to it. And I'll tell you, in 3-4 years, it's going to be running itself, and your name will be forever tied to that. So yeah, those are great ways to keep your brand in people's right in front of their face.
Yeah, it's very interesting. As you're talking, I'm trying to think, like, I have a national brand, like, because it's not geography based. I'm targeting attorneys, and I'm trying to figure out, like, is there like something that a lot of attorneys do? Like, are a lot of attorneys bikers, or a lot of attorneys, triathletes, or whatever it is, bowlers, and it becomes harder when you're at that level at a national brand, but also when you're B2B versus B2C, right? Like, this is all really great in the community. It's B2C makes a ton of sense. I mean, if you're bankruptcy, family law, criminal law, anything where you're, everybody who interacts with your brand is a potential client. Absolutely. Like this, this is a home run. But when you get to B2B, is there still, is that still the best bang for the buck to get your name out there? Or, are there better things to be doing? And how does, and again, like, this is all like overall branding experience. So
Yeah.
what is somebody in that market? Like, let's say you do business law, or you do, what are some other B2B
Great.
practice areas?
Yeah. So of course, depending on where you're located, depending on what you're trying to promote, it is going to be different. So B2B, the community things, people are going to notice that. I mean, it is going to get noticed, it's not to be ignored, but there are different approaches. Just this morning, I was talking to a gentleman down in Nashville, and he is expanding his criminal defense across the state versus just in Nashville. And so he's going to do a campaign where he actually is sending a small house plant in a mug with his brand on it. And it's going to be tagged, "We're growing. And we want to help you, and partner with you." So there are really some really great B2B marketing strategies that you can do that are just next level. Depending on whether you're trying to grow your practice into another area or whether you're just looking for more referral base. So everything is different, but just coming up with something that's creative, something that's not being done by anyone else, I think is, a really solid way to try to get people to say, "Oh, that's clever. That's a great idea." So yeah, whatever that is, every single demographic. And the thing too, attorneys have search history similarities, just like every other career, every other genre. So digital marketing and OTT, which is over the top, that's your connected TV, right? Your streaming, your Hulu, your Crackle, YouTube TV. We can really micro target with that. So you're talking about a national brand, and it, I don't know if everyone really understands how broadcast television works, right? If you are in a little city and you are 100 miles from Boston, for example, but you're still in the Boston DMA, for example, it's a DMA, a designated market area. If you put something on one of the big four, ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox, it's going to be shown through that entire DMA, which is huge. I mean, it might be way bigger than you need. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's exactly what you need. And in that case, broadcast would be fantastic. But if you are trying to micro target, say you are into your estate planning, and you want to target people between the ages of 50 and 75 in these zip codes that are watching TV at this time of day, we can micro target those people. And especially with digital and OTT, you only get charged if that person has their TV on at that time. You're paid for the exact impression. So it's not throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks anymore. We know, I mean, almost to a creepy level, honestly, we can be super specific as to who sees your ad. But again, it's all about strategy, and it all depends on the type of law you practice and who you're trying to reach.
Yeah. And then there's the trust factor of like, did they actually run this ad? Because I'm not in that zip code or demographic, so I'll never see my own ad. And then I wonder if it's really happening or not. Yeah.
Well, if it's done right, your phone should be ringing, and you should know in pretty quick form. If you give anything 90 days and you don't have any sort of ROI, I mean, everything is trackable at this point. Okay, let me take that back. Everything is trackable except billboards in this day and age. Pretty much everything.
Billboards are trackable too. You just have to put a custom phone number on it, right? Like, come up with a catchy phone number that's only for the billboard campaign.
Yeah, unfortunately, 98% of the people who see a billboard, they get the name of the firm, they go home, and 2 days later they Google it, and that's the number they end up calling. Right. So I think it's a really it's a fringe ROI, let's just say. I don't think it's, yeah.
So, I mean, interesting. You're talking about over the air, you're talking about billboards, you're talking about branding and video, and you're talking about how the people that, the firms you're working with, they don't have their own CMO. So you're acting as the CMO.
Correct.
Where does all of this stuff fit in with SEO, paid advertising on Google, paid advertising on and interruption-based marketing on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all of those? how does all of this marry together? And I mean, are you having clients do over the air advertising before digital, or is it complementary? Is it after? Because there's only so many marketing dollars you have, right? You have
Yeah.
to put it somewhere. So what do you see as the low hanging fruit for somebody who's, geographic market based,
Mhm.
which is, I think, what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Where's the place that they start and then and ascend from there, when they're navigating this?
I don't think anyone starts with broadcast. I don't think we've ever had one person that immediately starts with broadcast. I don't typically have people come to the table with $1 million marketing budget. We have clients that get there, but they got there after years of other things, right? So typically firms start with the lower hanging fruit, like you said, social media, paid ads, SEO, pay-per-click, making sure you partner with someone. That is one area that we don't do. We stay away from the SEO pay-per-click website world because it's a whole nother animal. And to be honest, there's some really, really good people in that space. And I mentioned Above the Bar a little while ago. I don't know if you've ever spoken to them over there, but there's a couple really great groups that do that. So I'm staying in my own lane. But I would say to start, everyone starts with social media programs, paid ads, some digital, and then the pay-per-click SEO. That's kind of the entry level. And I'll tell you another really interesting way to get started that I just talked through last week with somebody. Gentleman's name is Aaron, and he's in Wisconsin. And he is starting to record his thoughts as he's driving to the courthouse. He has his dash cam going and he's talking. He's preparing for a case and he is mentally talking to himself. So instead of having these thoughts going through his head, he's actually saying them out loud. And then on the way home after the verdict, anytime there's any sort of a break, he's recording himself. If COVID gave us nothing, it gave us the ability to use our iPhones and Zoom meetings and things like this to record. Not everyone needs Nancy O'Hare Zika and gavel marketing. You don't have to start with that high of a level. Not everyone needs cameras and grip trucks and, lights, camera, action. And it's not in everyone's budget, but you can start with something. You can start with video that you can use on your own social media page and, use video editor on your Mac. And, we have people that send us that video and we do the editing for them for a money saving thing, but start somewhere. And wherever you start, I promise you the next thing you do, once you get this thing going, the next thing's going to be a little bit easier and a little bit easier and a little bit easier, because as your brand grows and as you're continuing to tell your story, every platform that comes next is going to have a little bit easier time gaining traction.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to put one little point. Like if you are starting on your own and you're using your iPhone, recording your own video, which is totally doable, go and hire yourself a virtual assistant. We partner with Get Staffed Up. Go to profitwithlaw.com/get staffed up, less than $2,000 a month. And you can have a full-time 40-hour-a-week assistant. Have them learn the editing software on your Mac and give them the video and let them edit it out for you.
Yes.
Let them create your social posts. There's so much of this that can be delegated that doesn't require you. And it really doesn't have to cost you, a ton. And that VA probably is doing that portion of work in 2-3 hours a week. Right. Once they figure it out, once they learn how to do it, it's a very small time commitment. You then have them for the rest of the time to do other things. Mm-hmm. Whether it's marketing related, whether it's, operations related, it doesn't matter. You can totally, do this. And I'm not taking away from what Nancy does. I mean, at some point you'll be, it'll be the right time to go to her. But one of the things that I need to be really careful about on this podcast is when we start talking about doing something yourself, always think about who can do this. Not rather than how can I do this? There's a great book, Who Not How. Like, yes to all the things. you have to delegate as much as possible, because you are a law firm owner. And if you're going to step into the ownership level of your firm, it's not going to be by being a video editor. It's not even going to be by being a lawyer. So, let's just be real about that. Like,
Yeah.
if you're growing a law firm, you got to step out of all of those doing roles. So even when you're in the early stages and you're going it alone, meaning you're doing it on your own, it doesn't mean literally you have to do everything on your own. And I want to be really careful about that as we share these ideas. And you, Nancy, seems like you have opinions or agreements about this.
Absolutely. And we have, finding a college intern to manage your social media page, for example, that we at Gavel Marketing, we have we have a college intern for graphic design, and we have a college intern for editing. Perfect for that sort of stuff, right? I mean, it's a minimum wage, but they can work when they want. It's very easy. You can schedule posts. Yeah, doing this stuff on your own doesn't mean you physically on your own. So allow yourself to work on your business, not in your business, and find people who can do that stuff for you.
So at what level are we starting to focus on the branding? I want to try to just get clarity around the piece that is in your wheelhouse. So SEO and paid ads and on social and all that stuff. That's, like people they're already coming to you having done that, or have that in motion, have that in place. And maybe they're spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month just on that, between the provider who's providing the service and then the paid advertising spend that they have. And then is that where, okay, we kind of conquered this channel and it's doing well for us, but now we want to get the people who are not on social or not searching on Google. Is that the entry point for you?
Yeah. So that's when people typically, will come to us. We do have a few, like right out of college, want help creating the brand, the logo, and we do that whole thing too, right from the very beginning, from the very first conversation. But, we typically have someone will reach out to us and they'll say, okay, this is what we're doing. We're doing X, Y, Z. We have a little bit more money to throw at a budget. What do you recommend? At that point, the conversation gets turned over to Daniel and Alex and Matt at Gavel. They do a deep dive into your area, who you're trying to capture, what your goals are with marketing. And they will then reach out to all sorts of different platforms, and they will tell you, in our opinion, with that budget number in mind, we think you should keep doing ABC, but let's add D, E, and F now because you have enough money to do that. Or they may say, you don't have enough money yet to move on to D, E, and F. Let's just put a little bit more money into A, B, and C and keep that plate spinning a little bit before we add a new one to the table. So it really depends. It's such a specific, it depends on where they're located, the type of law, and how much money they have to spend. A lot of people will come to us and their marketing budget is less than 1% of their gross profit. So that's not a very aggressive budget, right? I mean, we like to see 5% if you're in growth. If you're in a growth mode, 5 to 7% is a very healthy marketing budget. I'll be honest, I have one group that is trying to go national. That is their by 2024, and they are spending around 13%. I mean, that's a huge spend, right? And it's not.
I'm the numbers guy, right? And profit first professional and all that stuff. I tell my clients to target 10% to as much as 15%, especially in the early stages of growth, when you don't have a lot of staff that you're paying for, like people are the biggest expense to your business. But before you ramp up with all those people, you should instead, because you're not spending on people, you should be earmarking more of that towards marketing to get to the point where you can afford more people. So you definitely want to be more towards the 15% at that point. But we target a 40% profit margin. So there's only 60% of the revenue coming in that you can spend. And if you're spending about 40% of it on people, you only have 20% left for overhead. So if 10 goes to marketing, that leaves 10% for your rent, your technology, all those other pieces, which is totally doable. It's just being intentional and really knowing your numbers
Yes.
and sticking with it. But you're right. I mean, if somebody is just 1%, 2%, then they're
It's
that might be
hard.
they might be working for them right now, but if they want that next level of growth, it's going to be very difficult to attain that.
Right. Right. And you know what? We have to have a lot of really hard conversations with people, and tell them that. And, I'm kind of from the school of not candy coating a lot. I am definitely very forward, and I just kind of have to, that's my job. It's my job to say, you don't have enough to do that right now. So you're wasting your money if you're only spending, $1,000 a month on digital marketing. That's not going to be enough to make a dent. So don't do it at all. Redirect your efforts until you can afford to do, and make a splash. So yeah, it's really interesting. And a lot of people, I guess the biggest conversation I have is with people, with these firms is explaining to them, let us do some strategy. Let us figure out what it's going to take for you to achieve your goal. And then you're going to be able to base your decision on fact. You're not going to base it on what you think it's going to cost you. You're not going to base it on what you think the ROI is going to be. I mean, we can be pretty exact now. And if there's agencies out there that you're talking to and they tell you that they can't provide you with that sort of information, they are lying to you. That is untrue. Agencies now, marketing agencies have the ability to be very, very transparent. And you should have access to dashboards. You should be seeing your real numbers like daily if you want to. If you want to, again, I don't want you to be doing that, but you should have the ability, or someone on your team should have the ability to be looking at all this stuff to make sure your money's being spent properly.
Yeah, it's a very good point you bring up. And first of all, you definitely don't want to be checking it daily because you can make yourself crazy. And there's and there's also there's ebbs and flows in a particular campaign. Like I know for my audience of law firm owners, on our social paid advertising gets like a turbo boost on the weekend. Like during the week, it's, we pay a lot more for our leads, for people opting into things, people watching things than we do on the weekend, but
Monday
it doesn't
to
make sense
Thursday,
for us to
right.
run it on the weekend only. So we have it running the whole time, but we know that if we're kicking off a campaign, we need it live before the weekend. And and if we're closing it down, we're going to shut it down right after the weekend because we already know our audience. But, if you don't know, like you don't understand what you're looking at, you could be looking at numbers that look really bad for today, but overall over the life of the promotion, it looks really good. The other thing is a lot of these platforms, they learn from the campaign, and they learn as the longer the paid campaign is going, the more data points it has to figure out where to find the next person that's gonna get the result you're looking for.
Right.
So often in the early stages of a campaign, it's a lot more expensive to find those leads than it is later as the platforms learn. So you definitely don't want to be looking at it daily, but I do agree. I think that not only should you have access to the information, but you should have, whoever your provider is should be educating you on what to look for and how to understand it.
Right.
And one of the things that I find with some of the coaching clients that I have is the provider that they have is not forthcoming with that, and they're like, we're like 60 days into a Google, pay-per-click campaign, and I don't think I have anything to show for it, but I don't really know. And I don't know what they're doing. And great. It could take 90 days to get results, but at least tell me what you've done.
Where am I at?
Right. Because it's very possible that they're behind the scenes, they're changing keywords and they're, there's modifications going on to get to the winning formula. But if you don't educate the client on what's happening and what, hey, this didn't work, we're going to make this tweak. And this is the change we're making. This is how we know it didn't work. All of a sudden they're wondering, like, do I kill it? Do I turn it off? Do I tell them to stop? Because I haven't seen anything yet.
Right. And we say 90 days is the, baseline. That is a baseline. So I get asked that question a lot too. How much time should we expect? I would not recommend anyone do a campaign for less than 90 days. 90 days seems to be a good baseline. kind of is going to, and then go from there. But you're absolutely right. Like and I laugh when you said that about, don't look at it every day. It'll drive you crazy. It's like when we're getting right now our stuff from our investment banker, right? Our investment stuff. We don't even open it. Like, don't even open it right now. Everything is kind of doing this number. Same kind of thing with social media and digital marketing. Sometimes it's better just to let it simmer and peek at it every other week, and have a standing meeting with your agency to talk through it and have them explain to you how things are going.
Yeah. All right. Nancy, all very insightful stuff. So just one final question. I've been trying to pin you into this box. You're not letting me do it. I'm going to try one more time from one more angle.
What should people do for this?
What is your ideal, I know that you've had people come straight out of school and do branding with you. But we also know that there's a certain level that when you're here, you're ready for us, right?
Yeah.
What's that level of business? What's that level of marketing spend? What's that, what is our listeners want to know, when do I pick up the phone and reach out to Nancy?
So I would say we typically hear from people when they are at a 2 to 4 partner status. That is typically the size. That's probably our sweet spot, to be honest.
Now, I want to interrupt you for 1 second because partner is an interesting terminology. Is it 2 to 4 partners or 2 to 4 attorneys?
Attorneys.
Thank you.
Yes, attorneys. So usually once you get
just an FYI to my audience, I do not recommend partnerships. Okay. Just
there you go.
Putting that out there. Hire 3 attorneys. When you're 2 to 4 attorneys, call Nancy. Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So when you get to a point where you have 3, 4 attorneys and you're trying to tell a story, you're big enough that you have a story to tell. And that's really where you're probably going to need a little bit more help, more expertise in that area. I would say the average digital campaign per month for these firms are around $3,000 a month. I think that's for most areas that we're trying to target. Broadcast TV and OTT is going to run you probably $6,000 to $8,000 a month. Broadcast TV is going to run you, again, that broadcast is really broad, right? If you're in New York DMA versus Marquette, Michigan, they're probably paying $6,000 for a 30-second spot. And here in Marquette, we're paying $600. So broadcast is going to be your last avenue probably. And it's going to run you anywhere from $6,000 a month to $70,000 a month. Again, depending on the size of the market you're in and how many eyeballs are seeing it. Radio, not a huge fan. It's kind of an after effect or afterthought for me. I'm not a big jingle girl. I don't really get into those. I think they're a little, I don't know, cheesy. But that's just my opinion. A lot of people have them. A lot of people love them. I'm not a fan. Billboards.
I think with I'm interrupting you here for a second. Yeah. I think with marketing, one of the things to really understand is that you need to test everything. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's just a question of when am I ready to run this test? But TV is not going to be a win for everybody.
No.
And radio is not going to be a win for everybody. And billboards is not going to be a win for everybody. But you have to try it in order to figure out if it is. And Nancy's going to tell us, but we don't have a way of measuring billboards. So you're going to try it and leave it up there. But
yeah. And here's the thing. I will tell you, if you're in a very small market, if you're in a really small market, billboards are going to be way more successful for you. If you are in a small market and you have a very strong community feel, advertising on things like signage in the football field, on the hockey rink, those sort of in basketball gyms, those are really important. Again, when you're, in Manhattan, okay, billboards aren't going to be your friend, right? That's just not going to be, there's too much noise to make it work. So,
right. Or you need a lot of billboards,
a lot of money, lots and lots of money.
A lot of billboards. Yeah. There is an attorney in this. So I'm in the New York area. There is an attorney that has a ton of the billboards along the Jersey Turnpike and Route 17, all around on the northern side of northeastern side of New York City. But one thing I've mentioned his billboards a number of times on the podcast because it just has the name of the firm, nothing else. And I just found it very interesting because all they do is, I mean, I looked them up, all they do is personal injury. So I don't understand why you would just put the name of the firm
Yeah,
and not
you need to
what you
put
do.
you need to put your area of practice. Also, you need to put your area of law, but it's branding at its finest. The
Yeah.
name recognition, the branding, and then what they do. That's
Yeah.
it.
And I know, I mean, I know the name. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of really successful, large PI firms in the area, and I don't know their names, but I know his.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, but I'm also paying attention. So I mean, I like
You're
I'm
probably
looking
not
at it and
the
I'm saying, okay, what's he doing? What like, is this really working for them?
right.
I
You might
gotta
want to
have,
reach out and tell him to put personal injury on his billboards.
I want to get him on the podcast. I want to talk about his campaign. I want to understand how he's measuring it, and did he test putting more on it? And I want to, I'm just curious about, I'm curious about it. So
Yeah.
we'll get him on the show. We'll figure it out. Nancy, as we wrap up here, what I like to do when we close it out is two things. First of all, what is the next step for a listener who may want to investigate gavel marketing? They may want to get in touch with you, take next steps. What's the best next thing for them to do as an action step if they really like this episode and they liked you and they're like, all right, I want to work with Nancy. The second thing is what is one parting piece of advice, wisdom, nugget that you want to share with our listeners before you leave?
So yeah, if someone wants to have a conversation with me, it costs nothing to pick up the phone and have a call and chat with me. Our website, callgavel.com, is the best place. My cell phone number, my email, it's all there and there's also some examples of our work. So you can have a pretty good peek at kind of what we do and you can get a feel for gavel. My biggest nugget, I think, that I say over and over is you have a story to tell. Your firm has a story to tell. It is your job to tell that story, because if you don't tell it, someone else will. And you probably aren't going to like the story that someone else tells about you. So invest in your time, invest the energy and money and time to tell it properly, so people know what you do and help grow your bottom line.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much, Nancy. Really appreciate you being here. Folks, if this is your first time listening to the Profit with Law podcast and you really enjoyed this episode, we'd love to have you back as a listener in the future. Easy way to do that, hit the subscribe button or the follow button in your podcast player, and then you'll get notified when we release a new episode. We're here every single week. Every Thursday, we release a new guest interview, and then we also throw in bonus episodes along the way. So you want to know when we've got something new dropping, because we have amazing guests just like Nancy who come week after week and really help us with every aspect and area of our business, and even some other topics that we never even thought about. We've had a parenting expert on here. We've all kinds of things that we get into on the Profit with Law podcast, and we'd love to have you as a subscriber. If you've been listening to the show and you really enjoy it and you're already subscribed, our call to action for you is go leave us a rating and review. We'd love for that, for you to do that. Just like in your law firm where you thrive on reviews, you need people to leave reviews so that when somebody comes and checks you out, they say, oh, this person's got a lot of reviews. Let's go and give them a call. We want them to look and say, oh, this podcast has a lot of reviews. Let's go give them a listen. So you be helping us continue to do this by directing more people to listen to our show by leaving your rating and review. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Take care. Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.